Speaking of scams and frauds,
Yeah, very good transition.
All right, well, moving on from one flim flam to another.
Let's talk about what's going on with Sam Bankman-Fried. In just the past 5 years, Sam Bankman-Fried went from buying his first Bitcoin to becoming a multi-billionaire. The FTX founder is now worth an estimated $11 billion. He could have bought that Jordan jersey if he wanted to. His exchange is now worth $32 billion, and it brought in about $1 billion in revenue just last year. CNBC's Kate Rooney has more on the CEO's rise to the top of the crypto industry. They call him the JP Morgan of crypto, right?
Yeah, the Michael Jordan of crypto, if you will.
Okay. Would it surprise you to know that the biggest cryptocurrency exchange just completely imploded after after borrowing its users' money to make risky bets?
But no, it was effectively altruistic. How could that happen?
Oh man, effective altruism. We did a bit about this at our New York show when we were talking about the David Shore a rave Burning Man party in his loft. But man, see, folks, I don't know if you're familiar with effective altruism. It's like altruism classic, except it's effective. And, effective altruism, I mean, sounds like sort of a buzzword. But no, actually, it's a philosophy created by Bay Area rationalists who are rationally approaching the problem of why do some have so much? Why do so few have so much when the world is so full of poverty and suffering? Well, altruism classic would have you believe that that's connected to how much wealth and power a small group of people have, and that they should essentially be forced to give up some of their wealth and property. No, you'd be wrong. If you were a rationalist, you would actually be working to give those people even more wealth and power because they can use it
most effectively because they're such geniuses. Like, why would you give it to a dumb old government when you could give it to these visionary masters of the universe? And we're seeing in every part of the economy, as soon as you just lightly turn down the free money dial, all of a sudden, all of that genius instantly evaporates. Like all that world-defining brilliance that makes them the ones who should have all the money and power because they know better than anyone else. All of a sudden, it's gone. All that happened was their capacity to endlessly borrow money, and all of a sudden they're not geniuses anymore. It's weird how that happened.
Felix, I gotta get your take on this. Felix is the Mr. Money of the show. So, Felix, your take on Sam Bankman-Fried and the collapse of his cryptocurrency exchange. That was, Tom Brady, and then Larry David. All the celebs were. I mean, this is like the Super Bowl was not even a year ago. Yeah. And this shit is like, this is just
no.
Oh yeah. So
at least Pets.com had a little bit more of a run. I want to steal a little wordplay from the man who predicted this more than anyone, Ed Zitron, the City of Freaks of Sam Bankman-Fried, Sam Bankrun-Fraud. Okay, so I was talking about this with Ed. Think about this. Okay, we've talked a lot about how, like, Elon Musk compared to John D. Rockefeller or J.P. Morgan or any of those guys, how he said everyone at the top of the billionaires list is an inferior intellect to their predecessors from 100 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Sam Bankman-Fried. Okay, let's think about if Jamie Dimon or Lloyd Blankfein or any of the evil bankers from the 2008 era, let's think about them. Let's think about if they were allowed to own NASDAQ, okay, or the New York Stock Exchange. They're allowed to also be a bank. They're allowed to be a brokerage house also, in addition to this. They're allowed to trade, and they're allowed to issue their own security and currency. How much money do you think those guys make just by not being stupid, by being like, holy shit, there's barely any regulation left. We can, if we don't blow it all up, if we don't issue our own currency that we claim has 40% APY, we could make $97 billion in 3 years. And then you give the same charter to Sam Bankman-Fried, the effective altruism dumbass. Look what happens. Look what fucking happens. I mean, isn't effective altruism, isn't that just a great microcosm of this? Because what have rich pricks like this always done? If you're a New York finance vampire, what is your favorite thing to do? It's to go to a charity gala. They
Oh,
love
they love
that
it.
shit. They love
Jeff
the
Bezos
Robin.
just announced he's giving away his fortune, but like I'm sure
Yeah,
to
just
like a
fucking Bill
family-controlled
Gates
trust
did. Jack me
to
off.
fucking avoid taxation. And if anything,
Bullshit. Right,
honestly,
but
Sam Bankman-Fried may be the most effective altruist of all time, given how much fucking money he's stolen and how much wealth he's actually wiped out, rather than having these assholes get to spend it the way they want in a fucking altruistic manner.
Right. But like, okay, so they've been doing they've been doing these bullshit charities that don't seem to help anyone for the longest time. And then you give money to Yale, and then you give money to the Opera House, and then this and then that. Sam Bankman-Fried, like everything, like how he's looking at finance, like how he said one day he'll buy Goldman Sachs. He looks at all these guys and he goes, "Hey, why are you doing it in the wrong way? I've invented a new type of private charity. It's effective." It's effective charity. Just like how I've invented effective finance. I've invented a new effective form of currency. And it turns out
He invented
those
banking
guys,
without regulation.
Yeah. It turns out all those guys who came before him, they were doing all of that for a reason.
Yeah, just like Twitter does all the things they do for a reason too.
Right. Those guys are doing that charity because it gives them social cachet. It gives them connections to elected officials. It gives them it
Tax
gives them,
avoidance.
most importantly, tax breaks and tax shelters. His replacement for that, effective altruism, which I guess is just like microfinance on steroids, it didn't help anyone because the type of shit they were doing would be like, okay, they would do a math problem and go, there's only a 0.005% chance of AI taking over the world, but that's such a horrifying future that we need to spend $500 million to prevent it from happening. How many people did it help? I don't know. Maybe 8 billion. Maybe they did prevent that. Who knows? But like everything else, it collapsed. It collapsed. It was ineffective. It left a group of 10 guys crying in the Bahamas.
There's a good article in The Lever by Andrew Perez, Rebecca Burns, and Matthew Cunningham Cook titled "Washington's $32 billion Crypto Scam," which is about how Sam Bankrun-Fraud basically tried to buy his own regulators in D.C. by giving heavily to the Democratic Party. And I just want to read a little bit from this. It says here, the collapse underscores how the $849 billion crypto industry, down 1/5 in the last week from a high of $3 trillion a year ago, has been protected by regulators who are asleep at the wheel, while hapless ordinary investors suckered in with slick ads from prominent celebrities and athletes lose their savings. A few days after Bankman-Fried's prescient comments on the Bloomberg podcast, FTX co-hosted a crypto confab in the Bahamas with world leaders, celebrities, and investors. On stage, Bankman-Fried interviewed former President Bill Clinton and former British Prime Minister Tony Blair while wearing T-shirts, shorts, and New Balance sneakers. Okay, the T-shirts, shorts, and New Balance sneakers thing when you're interviewing a president and former prime minister is less interesting to me than like this was their big rollout of a crypto conference. They're like, hey, if you want to sell that what we're up to is not shady in any way, I'd definitely host a conference in the Bahamas with Bill Clinton as my fucking keynote speaker. Bill Clinton and Tony Blair.
Well, the old saying, first is tragedy, then is farce. It was like he was doing a kabuki theater of the 90s in one conference.
Yeah.
It's like he was acting out a ceremonial repeal of Glass-Steagall.
I know, like the people who are most responsible for the 2008 financial crash, which happened because of their severing any meaningful regulation of the fucking or like severing any division between commercial and financial banking, and deregulating Wall Street. Let's have those guys back to pimp for our new fucking banking 3.0. Like it's like old banking, except it's cool and effective. And yeah, you're rolling out Bill Clinton and Tony Blair, the people who authored the last fucking economic collapse.
Yeah, no, it was like a midsummer religious ceremony for deregulation.
It says here, according to an industry publication, Clinton suggested that regulators should adopt a do-no-harm mentality when dealing with cryptocurrencies. Politico announced that the event heralded the crypto industry's strange new respectability. At the time, Bankman-Fried was fashioning himself as a political kingmaker, boosting crypto-friendly candidates in a series of Democratic congressional primaries, and getting advice from veteran Democratic consultants and younger quasi-left upstarts. In May, Bankman-Fried told NBC News he aimed to spend up to $1 billion on the 2024 elections. Now, just 6 months later, FTX has fully collapsed, according to Wall Street Journal. FTX had lent billions of dollars worth of customer assets to fund risky bets by its affiliated trading firm, Alameda Research, setting the stage for the exchange's implosion. The downfall was swift. When Binance, a competitor crypto exchange, announced on November 6 it was unloading its holdings of digital tokens issued by FTX, and in which Alameda was heavily invested, customers began pulling their monies from the tokens in FTX. Bankman-Fried announced on November 8 that Binance was acquiring FTX pending due diligence before Binance pulled out of the deal. Soon FTX was out of money. There's just another... it's pretty stunning detail in a Bloomberg article by Matt Levine about FTX's balance sheet. And right there, that Sam Bankman-Fried's main international FTX exchange held just $9 million in easily sellable assets against $9 billion of liabilities the day before it collapsed into bankruptcy, according to investment materials seen by the Financial Times. The largest portion of those liquid assets listed on an FTX international balance sheet dated Thursday was $470 million of Robinhood shares owned by a Bankman-Fried vehicle not listed in Friday's bankruptcy filing, which included 134 corporate entities. Then it also goes on to say, a spreadsheet listing FTX's international assets and liabilities seen by the Financial Times point at issues that brought Bankman-Fried crashing back down to earth. It references $5 billion of withdrawals last Sunday and a negative $8 billion entry described as hidden, poorly internally labeled fiat account. So this is they're trying to sell the company, and this is when you have to actually open up the books. And what they saw was just $900 million of assets against $9 billion in liabilities.
And then apparently they just took a bunch of money out of it as it was failing. Just opened the back door they put in there, just pulled the money out.
Yeah, I've seen some people allege that out of that final reserve chute, the final money stash they pulled out, they were essentially trying to gamble their way back to 10 billion with the 1 billion.
Always a winning strategy.
yeah, never give up.
Just go to fucking Macau or something and put it on black or whatever. You clearly don't know an investment. I'm all of a sudden I'm going to figure out how to do this. No, just literally go to a casino, man. Do a fucking 3-team parlay. You got a better chance there. I do wonder though, is this with Bankman-Fraud and Musk? We're seeing what happens when just endless free money starts to get drained out of the economy. Does that mean that these are really the canaries in the coal mine, and we're going to start seeing a bunch of companies that appear, maybe less obviously fraudulent, maybe based on some sort of fundamentals, but are going to see a similar crisis and a similar economic collapse due to them in the coming probably by 2024? You got to imagine, right?
I mean,
Absolutely.
It does seem like the heights of American capitalism are just all crooks, top to bottom. There's nothing real going on in any of these companies. It really does seem like that. I mean, just think about all the people who have been on the cover of Forbes magazine over the last 10 years and how many of them are currently either facing a jail sentence or, presided over the single greatest destruction of wealth in human history.
Right. Well, we said, one of the reasons that we pointed out, why guys 100 years ago were so much more impressive, the richest, 5 Americans then compared to now, is that now if you're among, the 20 or 30 richest people in the world, it's a good chance that you got there because you were at the right place at the right time with an emerging technology in an effective zero interest rate environment.
Right.
Which is if you already had money, if you're already in there, if your foot was already in the door and you don't make $10 billion in that environment, something is wrong with you.
Right.
And now clearly, even if you do that, something's wrong with you.
And Andrew Carnegie, he built fucking libraries and museums and shit. This asshole was giving money to David Shore and Sean McElwee. I mean, he was building rave parties, and data for progress.
The altruistic rave parties, okay.
But we are. I mean, now that he is public enemy number one, we are being treated to another view behind the veil of this Bankman-Fraud character. This is courtesy of the Daily Mail. Inside the very millennial life of bankrupt FTX founder Sam Bankman-Fried, teetotal vegan gamer 30 who claims to sleep 4 hours a night on a beanbag in his Bahamas penthouse that is also his office, which he shares with 9 coworkers.
Okay, can I just stop you there? The idea that anyone would be shocked that a large portion of this guy's life takes place on a beanbag. I mean, that is the first thing I figured out about the guy. That is a beanbag using gentleman.
It says, for a one-time crypto billionaire who rubbed shoulders with A-listers from Tom Brady and Gisele Bündchen to Bill Clinton and Tony Blair, departing FTX chief Sam Bankman-Fried leads an unassuming lifestyle. Some might even say boring. The 30-year-old, nicknamed SBF, is a teetotal vegan who sleeps 4 hours a night, drives a Toyota Corolla, and shuns designer clothes for scruffy loungewear and sneakers. It's likely that the only luxury he'll need to give up following the collapse of FTX is his exclusive penthouse in the tax haven of the Bahamas, which he shares with several of his acolytes. Bankman-Fried lives in the apartment cum office with 9 of his staff, including his rumored on-off lover, 28-year-old Stanford grad Caroline Ellison. Ellison, a Harry Potter fanatic whose father is an esteemed academic, was CEO of Alameda Research, the trading firm launched by Bankman-Fried, which is inexorably tied to FTX's downfall. Going on, it gives a little flavor about how basically the people who were living in this kind of Bahamas polycule running the world's largest crypto exchange met at kind of like a sober frat at MIT, where instead of drinking alcohol they would like do LARPing and have pie and cake and stuff. It says here, stunning penthouse aside, it's a modest lifestyle for a man who until this week had a fortune valued at $16 billion. In fact, he is a self-proclaimed effective altruist, an ethos that can be loosely defined as using the resources at one's disposal to bring about as much good as possible.
Repulsive.
It says Bankman-Fried met some of his FTX team at Epsilon Theta, a living group at MIT, which has been described as like a fraternity, but replace all the alcohol with the nerdiest stuff you can imagine. Indeed, Epsilon Theta's website explains, the house is socially dry, meaning that no alcohol is served at parties. However, visitors can usually expect to find costumes, cake, and or LARPing. Now, look, I know we made fun of these guys for having alcohol-free parties, but I think there's something a little bit rich about the Daily Mail representing the country with like the worst drinking problem on the planet, being like, look at this wacky millennial lifestyle of these people who don't like drinking 18 pints of beer a night.
Well, I mean, if Elon Musk has shown anything, it's that psychedelics are actually worse than drinking. JP Morgan was such a drunk, he had that disgusting little cauliflower growth on his nose.
Oh, God.
He's certainly a smarter guy than any of these people.
I mean, do you think he's going to jail? I mean, is he going to face any jail time for this, or is this just sell off some stuff in the Bahamas and skate on this?
I don't know.
I mean, did he do anything illegal? I mean, it seems like it should be illegal to just withdraw money from your customers' crypto accounts to fund bets that the investment arm of the company you own is making.
I mean, honestly, with crypto, I don't know. A big thing with SBF specifically was, do you remember that weird bill that he was getting Cindy Loomis and Kristen Gillibrand to pass?
Yes.
Basically the soft pedal regulation of crypto. I mean, I don't know. I watch all the crypto stuff at a extreme distance, and like the legality of certain things in America, I don't really know. Just I would guess he's not going to prison, and I would guess actually that it's more likely that in 2 years someone bankrolls a new venture by him. That's what I would guess.
We'll see.
You bring up the Kristen Gillibrand thing, man. Like I said, all those Tom Brady, Larry David commercials. That wasn't even a year ago. It was even less time ago that like Kristen Gillibrand and that other congresswoman senator appeared on like CNBC and was asked like, do you agree with regulators who say it's a bad idea to put like retirement funds into crypto exchanges? And they were like, no, absolutely not. We totally disagree with that. Please, it's a great investment. Go ahead.
Has Gillibrand ever seen anything on Twitter and not gone, oh, that's a great idea?
Well, wasn't Sean McElwee like very much associated with Kristen
he was
Gillibrand?
her Rimmel Wormtongue in her amazingly hilarious 2020 presidential run.
Yep.
Guarantee you that's part of the reason that she became Mrs. Captain Crypto after that.
Yeah, God, that was, talk about not that long ago. That was 3 years ago. Gillibrand tried being a dark horse contender for the presidency by repeating things that she saw on Twitter, that Sean McElwee saw on Twitter.
Yes,
like
he would
going
just tell
out there,
her the latest hot memes, and then she would just spit them out. And they're like, he was thinking, I'm going to the White House. I'm going to be Sam Seaborn.
Yeah, his formula was like, if something got 500 likes, have Senator Gillibrand say it. Have her talk about Rosa Luxemburg.